Hello, I'm Marc Sumner, host of the Channel Chat podcast show, and today I have Andy Venables, the CEO of POPX, in the studio in London. How are we doing, Andy?
I'm great, thanks Mark. Thanks for having me in.
No, thanks for coming in. In fact, I will start there, Andy, because you know this building already, because when I was looking through your LinkedIn profile, when you were at Adapt, you were a little service desk analyst on the, was it the 12th floor?
Based just upstairs, yeah. I even got lost on the way, considering how many times I've come to this building, I got lost on the way from the train station. Just shows how much it's changed. I think Adapt's long gone now. But yeah, my first proper job in IT after uni was in this building. So yeah, it's a bit serendipitous really, coming back here.
Take me back. So what made you join Adapt?
When I finished uni, I didn't want to be a hardcore developer, so I did computer science, and I felt, I don't want to be a hardcore developer, so I go into something a bit more mainstream IT, and so some recruitment consultant connected me with this job. So yeah, just answering the phones on a service desk. But it was quite a well-paid job. It was, you know, in central London, and I got to learn all about the wonderful world of managed service providers. Yeah.
Did you want to be a techie at that point? Was that the route you wanted to go into?
I think, if I'm honest, if I think back, I was probably somewhere between techie and sales. I was always able to talk to customers and relate technical concepts back to customers. I think that's something I've always been quite good at. I think I told myself that there was no money in being purely technical, and sales was where all the real money was, which I don't actually think that's true, but that's what I thought when I was in my 20s. But yeah, no, this building's really important, well, really special to me, because when I was at Adapt, I met my business partner, Martin Ford, who I ultimately went on to found POPX with. He was the CEO of Adapt at the time, and he's the one who got me off the service desk, got me off answering the phones, funnily enough, to start doing some in-house development for the ITSM platform that we had. And so that would be the start of a great friendship, great mentorship, and yeah, 20 years later, we're running a business together. It's good.
In those early days of dealing with MSPs, what made you question the industry about service management? What was those early days like?
So the software we were using was rubbish. It was really bad, right? It was like, it had a really funny name, like, I can't remember. It was awful, and it was just like, you know, you could barely put notes in it. You could barely see the notes that were in it. And this was like customers ringing up. You know, their multi-million-pound businesses didn't have internet access or stuff like that, and you're trying to help them with the issue just using this software that was rubbish. And I didn't know that much better at the time, but my business partner was like, no, he had some really simple visions and principles, like, you know, the monitoring should be connected to the ticketing should be connected to the finance system, and there should be a customer portal that overlays all of it, because he saw the world of apps on our phones coming quite early on, and he was like, no, everything should be available to a customer on their portal. Back then no one else was doing that, but he pulled me off the service desk and got me to build a portal on top of the in-house ticketing system. So that was game changing for the business, yeah.
Then you moved on to ServiceNow itself. Why did you join them?
I think I then thought, actually, do you know what, maybe I will be a bit technical. But actually, it was someone I worked with here who said to me, you should check out this up and coming company, ServiceNow. Might be the next Microsoft. And I thought, okay.
Up and coming.
Yeah, up and coming. And so looked them up on the internet and thought, that is actually a pretty cool company, actually, yeah. It only just come into the UK. I think I applied for a proper techie job, and they steered me back towards more of a half customer, half techie job. Turned up at ServiceNow for an interview, 30-minute interview, and the next thing I knew, I was hired. So I must have done something good. I think I was employee like 1,500 globally or something, and then just rode that rocket ship with ServiceNow all the way up to, you know, the great story that it is today. But yeah, really, I'm a big fan of ServiceNow, right? It's, you know, Fred Luddy founded an amazing business, and it is, you know, it's one of those companies, but it can be difficult to get right.
What was at the moment when at ServiceNow, when you were there, when you realised the traditional consultancy model maybe wasn't working for MSPs?
I think I just rolled off a big project at a certain building society, and I think I was just rolling onto a project at a certain large UK bank in Canary Wharf. I think I remember the 3 months I'd just done at the building society were looking exactly like the 3 months I was just getting into at the bank, as in like they were asking for the same stuff. And so I was like, okay, so they're being charged an hourly rate, and all I'm doing is just configuring the same things over and over again. And I realised that was a pattern, that was the consultancy pattern. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, right? You know, professional services consultancy is how a lot of IT services get done, and it's very successful. But to me, it just seemed inefficient, right? It was just, well, why are we repeating stuff? And because I'd come from this background at Adapt, where I believe I understood the value of a managed service, I was like, well, hang on a minute. if we run this as a managed service, we can make this more efficient, right? The benefit of managed services, you do something, a team of experts do something once for a customer, and then they can make it very quickly repeatable.
You had a safe job. You were working for a big company.
I missed the IPO though by 6 months.
So, oh no!
So I knew I had to do something else after that.
So you had a safe job. What was the trigger point when you thought, I'm going to go and start something else? In fact, not even go and work for someone else, start your own thing.
I think I've always been a little bit entrepreneurial and always knew I'd probably wanted to start my own business one day. And I think I would just endlessly think up harebrained schemes. So I remember being on the tube thinking like, right, we could rent that advertising space and put something on there and try and start a business, maybe a competition-based business or something, or like do something with property or something like that. And then one day I remember, and I think it was on the tube, I was like, why don't I just do the day job but for myself? That would be good enough. And at this point, I think I was being flown all around the world with ServiceNow, which was great, but I had a young family, and so that wasn't ideal. So I was like, well, if I do it for myself, I get to choose when I travel and when I don't. So that was the start. That's how I remember it. And then the catalyst was when I was speaking to Martin. We developed our USP a little bit, which was, instead of the traditional consultancy, we do the managed services, but do managed services in an industry that doesn't normally see it. And that would be the edge, and that would be the unique thing. And it just snowballed from there, really. Do
you think, Andy, you would have started a business if you didn't have a partner or go into it with a partner? Would you have done it on your own?
That's a really good question. I might have had a go, but I probably wouldn't have been successful. So I think Martin, we're both quite similar. He's got a lot of skills that I haven't, and vice versa. So I think we make a really good team. And I think there's a lot written about, a lot of tech companies that are obviously founded. People recommend you have a co-founder just to broaden your skill sets, what you've got. So probably wouldn't have been anywhere near successful without him. He's been a mentor and a friend for all these years. Yeah.
So friends in business, does it work? Do you have any sort of disagreements on how the company should be run?
Yeah, all the time.
Really? Is it challenging?
I think after a while, you work out how to resolve conflict, because I don't always see conflict as a bad thing, right? Because otherwise you just got a bunch of people all thinking the same, right? So I think it's good, but how you manage that conflict and how you turn that into a positive. So, the ability to really understand someone else's point of view, but then also the ability to communicate your point of view and the why. It's no good just saying, we've got to do it like this, right? I want something backed up with empirical evidence, right? And he knows that, and so he's not going to come to me with a change of strategy and something like that unless it's backed up with something. So I think you figure out that. I don't think we've ever had a major bust up, but we've had some we always disagree.
You often say that MSPs need to be fully in with ServiceNow. What does partial adoption look like, and why is it so dangerous?
I must have seen 100 ServiceNow deployments in my career, and it's a really powerful platform. It's I love it. There's stuff, and many people who work in this industry absolutely love it because it's so powerful what you can do with it. But that does mean it can get quite complex quite quickly. And so in order to harness that power, it takes a village, right? You need some technical people, you need some project managers, you need some testers, you need some business analysts, you need strategy, you need architects, you need a lot of things. And most organizations can't afford to have all of that in-house. It's just doesn't scale.
Absolutely not. Of course they can't, no.
Most organisations are lucky if they can afford 2, 3, 5 people would be a luxury. So what I mean by that is you need a centre of excellence. If you're going to be in this, you need a centre of excellence. It's quite a complex thing, quite a tricky thing to do. And if you can afford one, great. But if not, a managed service, as managed service providers know, is a great way to get access to a centre of excellence without having to own it all in-house.
People talk about selling outcomes, which sounds great, but how do you actually make sure that comes across to the team? What is selling outcomes?
That's something I'm definitely very passionate about. I think our first few customers, we are selling you the outcome. We are sending you the outcome of a successful ServiceNow deployment, or we're selling you the outcome of a successful customer service deployment. And I think that contrasts with the market quite clearly, because everyone else is selling hours, right? I think my dad joked when I said I was a consultant. Consultancy is like borrowing your watch to tell you the time. Right, and it is in a way, because you're paying that person by the hour, and they're finishing in 60 minutes whether you get your outcome or not. So I think if the ability to sell outcomes it rebalances things a bit better in the customer's favour. The customer knows what they're getting. We get a very predictable price, and then some of the risk is on us to make sure we're as efficient as possible to deliver that outcome at an acceptable price. So it drives the right behaviour in us to be as efficient as possible, and it means we have happy customers as opposed to customers who might say, well, yeah, I've spent a lot of money and it's all right, but it's not really getting the value.
Do you hear that a lot in the market where, a consultant or whoever is charging by the hour, maybe they're taking their time, maybe they're saying the problem's a bit worse than it is, it's going to take 3 hours, maybe it's going to take 4 hours. Do you get that? Do you hear that in the market?
I don't think it's quite as sort of malicious as that, but it's definitely like, they can try their best and can still not get to the outcome, right? And that's, that could go wrong for a number of reasons, right? That could be the customer moves too slow, the customer's got too much bureaucracy, or the partner they're working with doesn't have some skills. It could be any number of those factors. So as a customer, you're exposed to all of those things. But one of the things that we're seeing, when we first started, it was a lot about helping customers adopt ServiceNow for the first time, which was great. So we call those sort of greenfield deployments. But now we're coming back around, we're helping a lot more customers who've had ServiceNow for a while. And there's, the number one bit of feedback is we've spent an awful lot of money and it's good, but we want it to be great. And how do we go from good to great? And we like working with those customers to take them to the next level, because our model's more designed to get to those hard to reach outcomes.
Hello IT channel, I want to take a quick 20 seconds out from this episode to thank our sponsors behind me, which is Sonic Will, AMD, Pure Channels, Checkpoint, Arrowsphere, Comms and Enable. Without their help, we simply can't put these shows on, so thank you to you all. Back to the episode. Give the listeners a bit of an idea about the model. So POPX, the business, why did they start? What are they trying to solve?
It's customer service, it's ticketing, it's customer portals, it's monitoring, feeding into your ticketing platform. That's what ServiceNow does really well, in addition to lots of other things. It's the market leader. And so a lot of the market wants to buy ServiceNow, but as I say, it's a complicated thing. And traditionally, IT departments would acquire it and own and run it in-house, maybe with some help for some partners, as you say, charging by the hour. We're different. We say, look, we'll take care of everything for you. We're a centre of excellence. We'll just put a big wrap around you. You can focus on what your business does best, and don't worry, we've got this thing called ServiceNow, and we're going to make sure that what your business needs operationally, they're going to have those outcomes. We're going to work together for 2-3 years to make sure you get those outcomes. And that's quite different. That was a USP, I think.
And would that work better for new customers or existing customers? Because new customers, I'm thinking they're going on the journey with you, but maybe existing customers have been with ServiceNow a while. Yep. They might have already been down that rabbit hole for a while. So who works best with you?
Yeah, we have both. We have mix. More so now, I think we're seeing existing customers. We're seeing a big uptick in existing customers. And I think it's tantamount to the power of ServiceNow that people can be on that journey, maybe be slightly less than 100% happy, but still willing to give ServiceNow another shot, and just recognising that it's the delivery model that needs to evolve a little bit. So yeah, second chance at ServiceNow.
You must have seen a lot of MSPs try to scale on ServiceNow. What actually separates the ones that crack it or the ones that just sort of sit still?
I do think basics is really important. We love to talk about AI and we love to deliver AI outcomes, but let's concentrate on the basics first, right? Getting a really good, well-populated CMDB, making automation just work, making assignment, just making things as efficient as possible. There's some really underutilized parts of ITIL. Having a really good knowledge base can really help an MSP scale really efficiently, yet not many MSPs have a full-time knowledge manager. So, we know that is something that could be really efficient and deliver returns, yet a lot of MSPs don't invest in it. So that's where we try to steer our clients to, don't worry, we're going to get to AI. We're definitely going to do AI, but let's also make sure we do the basics really well as well.
You've been pretty vocal about consultancy-led ServiceNow projects not always working. Why does that model still exist?
Yeah, good question. We've obviously not got the POPX word out loud enough, really. I think it's just tradition, and I think that's the way the ecosystem has always been for the last number of years. But I think it is slowly starting to change. A lot of the professional services partners out there will offer managed services as well, which is great. But they do it in a slightly different way to us, which is fine. So I think it's great. I think it definitely is a growing market.
Do you see it changing, the demand for what you're doing? Do you see that growing? They're thinking once they're aware of it, maybe they're not aware of the business, but as soon as they're aware of it, they're thinking, yeah, this is obvious. I should be doing that.
Well, the people I speak to, because they're all our customers. One of the number one things we hear is, I wish I'd known about your service 2-3 years ago. So we just need to get the word out to those customers as much as possible. So I think there definitely is a shift. I think there's IT budgets are always quite big, big and expensive, and I do think there's a bit of a turning point where people are fed up of spending, grotesque sums of money on IT software that doesn't necessarily drive those outcomes. So I really think it's starting to shift.
You've mentioned there about big budgets, maybe the uncomfortable truths about MSP in the market. What are most leaders don't want to admit that they're struggling with? What's the uncomfortable truths in the market?
I see a pattern all the time of operational people too busy fighting the fire, maybe with a leaky hose, to take a step back and fix the hose. Right, and that's an analogy for when you're so head down in that fight, to put fires out, which often many MSP service desks are. You need someone else almost to take a step back and help you improve the process so you can gain that efficiency. So that's one we see time and time again, focusing on big shiny things when the basics aren't necessarily in place first. So look, we all love more automation, but sometimes you just got to make sure the basics are being done really well first.
What about when MSPs hide behind, we give a great personal service, Andy, that's what we rely on, we're getting all referrals, etc., etc. Is that just an excuse not to adapt automation?
I don't think so. I think a lot of our customers say that. They say, the way they differentiate themselves from maybe Amazon or other big companies is that they do provide a personal service, but personal service and automation and AI, it's not one or the other, right? You can absolutely do all of those things. So we've got customers that provide great personal service. Where if the customer wants to pick up a phone to them, it's a great personal service. But if the customer wants something quick and easy, there's a portal where they can request it and it's automated, and the AI is powering it as well. So it doesn't have to be one or the other. Have
you seen any mistakes from sort of MSPs, even if it's a large MSP, that still surprises you in the market?
Yeah,
Come on, pray tell.
Yeah, look, there are. ServiceNow is a company that has grown, over the last 20 years with fantastic growth, and so some of the organisations that adopted it earlier on, unfortunately, they're almost victims of their own success. They adopted it almost too early, and then the technology moved on, and they're trapped in a bit of a previous state, and they can't get forward. So we help quite a lot of customers out in that scenario. Again, probably just the over complexity, people overcomplicating things. That can be a bit of a vice as well.
I said off camera about your background because I was interested. I was thinking, have I had a CTO on here that was become a CEO? And normally, Andy, my background is I'm recruiting CEOs, C-suite in the IT channel. And normally I look at them and think, which background do they come from? Maybe a COO takes the top job. Maybe a CRO takes the top job. If a CTO does, don't take this the wrong way, Andy, it normally doesn't go that well. So how have you had to adapt to becoming the CEO?
Yeah, it's a great question. You really made me pause and think, actually. Yeah, I was a developer, then I was a service desk, then I was another developer, then I was a CTO, now I'm a CEO. So I think first and foremost, I'm a founder. So, I started this business, I'm passionate about it. I have the authority to make the decisions. I know the direction, and I believe in our model and what I'm selling, essentially, which is the outcomes. So I think customers respect that, perhaps, a bit more than they might a bit more of a salesy type CEO. But it's also been a journey for me. I had to do a mini MBA to try and learn some new skills as well. And then you've got to surround yourself with the people that complement your skills as well, right? So, I've got a COO, I've got a CFO, and all the rest of it, because,
Have you got a CRO?
We've had one over the years, yeah. We might be in the market for another one. And varying degrees of success. Maybe it's a market where people just don't like being sold to. They like that real truth. Maybe we often sell to techies, so maybe it's better to be a techie. Do
you think that's an advantage as a CEO when they're thinking, it's either this jazz hand salesperson come in or they're more operational, whereas a techie comes in as the CEO? If they can converse and they've got communication skills, they maybe trust you a bit more, do you think?
I think so. I hope so. It certainly makes sense to me. I wouldn't want to buy from someone who's not really got answers and is just talking about commercials and probably trying to do a misdirection. I wouldn't be comfortable buying from that. So I can see why customers wouldn't. But I also think, I've got the ability, I said this at the beginning, I do think where some of my strengths lie, the ability to link up the technical and the commercial and bring the two together. So if I can talk to both of those at the same time, probably just means there's fewer people in the room, isn't it, when we're talking to new customers.
How much are you close to the technology now, being a CEO? Are you still getting a chance to sort of keep up with technology, or is there so many other problems you've got to deal with now as a CEO?
Yeah, I had to stop writing code a few years ago, unfortunately. Right. I know you had Paul Hamilton on. I think it sounds like he still writes the code, which is great. No, but I was probably a developer when I started, CTO, and now sometimes I feel like I'm in HR quite a lot of the time. You know, we've got 50 people globally now, so there is a lot of people to look after. You know, things come up and you have to deal with them. So yeah, probably HR feels like where I spend most of my time at the moment.
What's the hardest thing you found as being a CEO and a founder in your business? What's the real tough thing you have to deal with, apart from your business partner?
Yeah, difficult decisions. Right. You do have to make a lot of them, and I think the ones that you put off, you can often even know it's a really difficult decision, or the right decision is the most difficult one, and then you put stuff off, and then having learned from that experience, you put off a difficult decision, it can become a really difficult landmine later on. So I think now I've learned that it's act quickly can often be, trust your gut a little bit and act quickly, because that can often squash a problem before it turns into a bigger one.
Do you make decisions like that? You've got from a technical background, but do you still go with your gut in some decisions?
Yeah, I think I thrive on that. I think it's a really important. We're still quite a small organisation. Our customers like that we're quite agile, and it's quite an active market, so you have to move quite quickly sometimes. So yeah, I do pride myself on trying to look at something, understand from my people what they think their insights are, and then make a decision and move on, and try not to dwell on it. And we're going to get some of those decisions wrong, but sometimes it's better to act quickly than to overthink something and be slow.
Let's talk about the future, Andy. How do you see the service desk as a service market changing the competitive landscape for mid-market MSPs, let's say?
Yeah, I think it's a huge growth opportunity, and not only that, that's what my customers tell me as well. So they're looking to launch service desk as a service, or they've got loads of service desk as a service, they're looking to do more of it. I think it's a huge growth opportunity. MSPs, I think we all know, like sticky customers, and service desk as a service is a way to make them that little bit stickier while also delivering value. And our model plays perfectly into supporting MSPs in that. So I think it's something we'll see a lot more of. I think one of the customers was talking to me the other day about how they sell 2 or 3 products to each of their customers. That's great, but they want to try and get it to 5. And service desk as a service, if they've not got it already, is absolutely one of the key ones to slot into that portfolio. So yeah, it's a huge opportunity.
If POPX could only make one AI investment over the next maybe 2 or 3 years, what would it be?
We really like the ServiceNow AI technologies. They're really great and they're easy to roll out, and they're almost click a button and turn them on. But there are some other third parties out there that are really concentrating on where the most efficiencies probably lie for MSPs, which is incident triage, customer support, investigations, and so forth. And there's some really exciting startups, mostly out of California, that are really just looking at that one problem. And they have really interesting pricing models, like they price on the outcome. So if they don't fix anything for you, they don't make any money, which I think which aligns to our philosophy as well. So we're really excited about how we can layer in additional partner technologies into the ServiceNow stack to drive forward efficiencies. And I think the one thing we all know is things are changing really fast, so you got to stay very current on what's out there.
My final question, and I don't want you to say POPX, and I don't want you to say ServiceNow. In your opinion, it could be a vendor, MSP, VAR, distributor, whoever. What's the one company to watch in the channel or in the tech market right now? Who you think will do well?
We're just looking at a partnership with a company called Forethought. Again, California-based AI company. I think that's where they are. But yeah, again, they're doing exactly that. They're focusing on a really important use case that has a massive ROI, and just doing that 1 or 2 things really, really well. And I think that's where there's so much upside and so much potential, right? I love companies that can do all sorts of things and stuff like that, but often there's so much value in doing 1 or 2 things really, really well. Forethought.
They're the one to watch. Yeah. Andy, you've been a great guest. Thanks so much for your time.
Thanks very much, Mark.
Thanks for listening. Hopefully you've enjoyed the episode. Channel Chat is partnered with Arrowsphere, AMD, Checkpoint, Sonic Wall, Enable, Pure Channels, and Comms. See you next time.